Hey, what's up, card fighters? So I'm here to profile my MYTHIARQ deck. I did go over a lot of the cards in all the cards in Stoicheia in set 12. There's really nothing that would benefit this deck too much without just like a complete overhaul. And the way that the support of the set 11 support of this deck came out is that like you just really want to maximize on your engine pieces, and you do have a tiny slot for non-engine, but I used that tiny like 2-card slot of non-engine to like alleviate a problem that I saw the deck had while I was playing it. Actually, it kind of alleviates 2 problems. But we're gonna get into the deck profile. I'm gonna link the deck log code down below. So if you guys don't want to hear me talk about the deck, if you don't want to or if you just want to see the list and go, it's gonna be in the description of this video. Just please leave a like on your way out. Leave a like and subscribe on your way out. I really appreciate like, subscribe, share. Like anything really helps, guys. Like we're just trying to grow this channel every day, day by day. But getting into the profile, you want to run the MYTHIARQ ride line. The reason you're running the MYTHIARQ ride line is because when you ride the way this deck plays is you basically want to play with a full board, or you want to play with at least 4 rear guards on board. Because if you have 4 rear guards on board, you want to have a minimum of 5 units in total for your grade 3 LURUTHZUL's MYTHIARQ's effect. But yeah, the reason that we're running the MYTHIARQ ride line is because they have MYTHIARQ in their name, and then when you ride the 2 over the 1, you call the 1 out to rear guard, and then when you ride the 3 over the 2 calls itself from rear guard. So just based off this ride line, you get 2 rear guards by the time that you hit grade 3. This deck is in my like minimal play testing of this deck. Like you guys saw, the match video is going to be linked at the end of the video as well. It's just the deck really wants to play very aggressively and just put your opponent at high damage and punish them at the same time by ripping cards out of their hand, by making them either guard with their pieces or forced to discard their pieces for guard, and then just ripping them out of their hand anyway. But yeah, I am going to briefly explain what all the cards do, just because this isn't a very well-known deck. Like, I don't think anyone plays this deck at all, really, but the grade 1 is like your bread and butter of this deck. As long as you superior called a card as long as you superior called a card for the turn off of an ability, it can be anything. It could be off your order card or your grade 3's ability. You superior called a card to rear guard. This gives the effect that any rear guard in front of it is going to get a 5k power, and that's a continuous effect. So that just basically helps with your multi-attacks and helps you make really good numbers. The grade 2 is also really good too. Really good. You want to max them all out regardless, just because they're different MYTHIARQ names. But the grade 2, when you call it, it soul charges 1, and you choose one of your opponent's rear guards, and it can't intercept until the end of turn. Does it give itself power? No, it just has that effect. But the grade 2 is just as good, but you do want to maximize on it. And then the grade 3, this is why it's really important to have different MYTHIARQ names, is because when it attacks, you counterblast 1, bounce a MYTHIARQ rear guard back to hand, and superior call 1 from your hand with a different name, and that's how you achieve your multi-attacks. And he also has the on-ride skill of when you on-ride him, you look at top 7 and superior call 1 card to rear guard, and then if you have 5 or more unit cards, which includes himself, so that's why you only need 4 rear guards maximum or 4 rear guards minimum, that your opponent chooses a card from their hand and discards it. So yeah, let's get into the rest of the deck. I am going to go over the engine pieces first. It is very just easiest. So for MYTHIARQ Habitat, it works best in this deck just because the Vanguard superior calls. So if you superior call MYTHIARQ Habitat off the Vanguard effect, you still do get to bounce it off of one of its continuous skills. You get to bounce it back to your hand essentially. And this is another superior call outlet for your deck. So you do want to max out on this card as one of your engine pieces essentially. 3 copies of MYTHIARQ LURUTHZUL of the 3 copies of Persona Ride. It's really easy to at least get 1 Persona Ride off because of your your habitat and your LURUTHZUL's on-place ability, to whereas you could superior call this from your deck, and then you can bounce it back to hand, and then you have Persona Ride for next turn. That's a play I really like doing with this deck. And because it's so easy to generate rear guards, rushing with this deck is really good as well. And then by the way, I'm not going to be calling these by their real names. Besides LURUTHZUL, I'm not going to be calling these by their real names. Their real names are like ridiculous, and this is what Bushra just should have called them to begin with. So 4 copies of MYTHIARQ Seahorse. This is essentially what your draw engine is, because when you call MYTHIARQ Seahorse to rearguard, he gets 5k, and then you can CB1 and draw a card. But I believe you have to have a MYTHIARQ Vanguard. If you have 3 or more units of MYTHIARQ, it gets 5k to end a turn, then you can counterblast 1 and draw a card. So 4 copies of that. It's your draw engine, and it's another MYTHIARQ name, so you do want to max out on it. 4 copies of MYTHIARQ Giraffe Turtle. MYTHIARQ Giraffe Turtle is just one of your most important combo pieces / extenders, is because of its second ability. Its second ability, which is an act ability, which lets you, I believe, which is a Soul Blast. No, it's not even a Soul Blast. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard of MYTHIARQ in its name, you could bind another rearguard, another MYTHIARQ rearguard with a different card name than this card, and then superior call it from bind zone. So you're able to like get the grade 2 on play skill off again. You're able to get the grade 3 on play skill off again. So and when it's superior called, if you have 3 or more MYTHIARQ units, it gets 5k at the end of turn. Oh, not superior called, when it's called in general. So yeah, 4 copies of MYTHIARQ Giraffe Turtle. And then 3 more copies of main deck MYTHIARQ Dolphin. I really like comboing the Dolphin with the Giraffe Turtle, just because you call the Dolphin to rearguard, you soul charge 1, you choose one of their front row units, and it can't intercept until the end of the turn, and then you can activate MYTHIARQ Giraffe Turtle's effect of, he gives himself 5k, and then you could Soul Blast 1 and stun one of your opponent's rear guards. So basically you could just stun one of their front row units, and they will essentially have to call over it, or they would have to do something about it on their turn. Also, it's really good by just locking out their interceptors by calling the MYTHIARQ Dolphin, binding it, and then calling it again, and then calling both their front row interceptors. And then 3 copies of the grade 1 MYTHIARQ Platypus. You guys would see from the match video, we do call this in the match video Platypus Dragon. So this is the grade 1 Platypus. I already went over his effect, his ride line effect, and this is really just the bread and butter of your deck, which allows you to hit numbers even if you weren't able to Persona Ride. And that's something that I really do like about this deck, that it is able to still just hit those 23, 28s, and 33k number thresholds even without Persona Riding. And then we play 3 copies of MYTHIARQ Bunny. I was maxing out originally on the Bunny because this is your countercharger, which its countercharge effect is if you didn't countercharge this turn, if you have 3 or more face down counterblast, you countercharge 1, but you can only countercharge once with this effect. So I did cut it down from 4 copies to 3, so which if you were maxing out on all the MYTHIARQ cards, which technically isn't wrong, but if you were maxing out on all the MYTHIARQ cards, you would have basically a 1-of slot, and I'll go over what that 1-of slot was in the match video versus what I've bumped it up to now. So for the non-engine 2-of slot is I'm playing Ensemble of Smiles, Amalai. What Ensemble of Smiles Amalai does is when she boosts, if you have another grade 1 rearguard, it gets plus 2k. Until the end of that battle, and then if your Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, you can counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and draw a card. So this helps in 2 different ways, versus because you always want to play with a full field, even in the early turns of the game, you generally have not too large of a hand size, so that kind of helps as an extra draw engine. But it also helps is that I've noticed while I was playing this deck, because the way Platypus is worded, it doesn't give 5k power to your Vanguard. It's only rear guards that are in front of the Platypus. So this this is like an ideal Vanguard booster that is very searchable because of Habitat and LURUTHZUL, that your Vanguard is going to be 23 without Persona Ride and then 33 with Persona Ride, on top of you ripping a card from their hand and on top of you locking their intercepts and your 3 rearguard attacks. But yeah, what I was doing in the match video is I was playing 4 of the Bunny, and then I was playing 1 of Forbital. Because what I was doing with Forbital is I would call out LURUTHZUL to rearguard, I would call this out to rearguard, draw a card off of this, and then bounce the LURUTHZUL back to my hand with my Vanguard LURUTHZUL's effect, so I have guaranteed Persona Ride for next turn. But you could do that just as easily off of your Vanguard skill and off of Habitat. I feel like this is just like what. If you watch the games, you'll see what I mean. To whereas without Persona Ride, my Vanguard never hit higher than 2100. But going on to the rest of the decks, just more or less staples, is I'm playing 4 regular D Perfect Guards. Again, my reasoning for playing 4 regular D Perfect Guards over 1 Blitz PG is because this deck generally doesn't gain like a massive hand advantage unless it's like really hard winning the game. But yeah, the DPGs are just really good in a very hyper-aggressive deck like this, just able to survive longer and keeping potential combo pieces in your hand, because it is very important that you keep a different name Mythicar than the one you're going to bounce as your Vanguard's effect, so that you can get that multi-attack off. For triggers, 4 regular heals. I don't like the effect. I don't think the effect heals are good. Maybe in next format, but I still don't think that they're good enough right now to play. 4 vanilla crits. 4 into soul crits. It doesn't really come up in this deck because you really don't use soul in this deck, besides your ensemble grade 1 and your giraffe turtle if you're using giraffe turtle's effect to stun a rearguard. But you don't use soul in this deck, and your ride line takes away 2 soul, but that's fine because you soul charge off of Mythicar Dolphin, and again you're not required to use soul for your main combos. 3 draw triggers, because again this is a very I wouldn't say all-in type of strategy, but very like put your hand down on the board type of strategy. So that's the reason why we are playing the draw triggers, just because it's very important that you do draw into your pieces, or just rear guard, or sometimes just rear guards in general. And then 1 of the Starkea overtrigger. This overtrigger is still a good overtrigger. You could play the red or blue one. I just feel like in this type of deck, the Starkea overtrigger is just as a more valuable catch-all. Just getting that draw, that omni trigger effect that could basically win you the game, if not push your push turn even harder. But yeah, guys, that is my Mythicar LURUTHZUL deck profile. Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We have been growing slowly but steadily in the past couple of days. And tell me in the comment section what you liked about this deck, what you would change personally. I feel like the main engine, the cards that you can cut is the Bunny. I wouldn't play less than 2 bunnies, but I feel like everything else is just pretty much you have to max out on copies of it just because they're your main playmakers. But anyways, guys, later.